It's funny. Have you ever noticed how some of the most fascinating people you know are practically ghosts online? Today, we're going to dig into the psychology behind that silence and what it actually says about having a truly rare mind. So, has anyone ever hit you with that question? Or maybe you've thought it about a friend. Hey, why are you so quiet online? Why don't you ever post? It seems simple, but man, that question is just loaded with all kinds of assumptions, right? Yeah, the automatic assumption is, well, you must be insecure, or maybe you're just hiding something. You're afraid. Or worse, your life just isn't interesting enough to share. People kind of jump to the conclusion that you're hiding from the world. But what if all of that is just completely backward? Psychology is actually starting to reveal a much deeper, kind of counterintuitive truth here. The thing is, this digital silence, it's probably not about fear at all. In fact, it's a sign of something way more powerful going on inside. And this is the absolute key right here. Your choice to stay off the grid isn't weakness. It's actually a form of rare psychological power. You're not broken. You're not afraid. Your mind just operates on a different level. It processes things like validation, privacy, and social energy in a completely unique way. Okay, so let's get into the proof. Let's break this down. We're going to look at 5 psychological signs that show you're operating differently and why your online silence is actually evidence of that rare mind. All right, let's jump right in with the first sign, and honestly, this one is probably the most fundamental of them all. It's this idea that psychologists call intrinsic self-worth. And no, this isn't about having a big ego or anything. It's about having this deep, solid sense of your own value that comes from the inside. It doesn't need anyone else on the outside to approve of it. And this is such a game changer. See, most people use social media like a digital mirror, right? They're constantly checking their reflection based on likes, comments, and shares. Psychologists call this self-verification. It's this deep need to have other people confirm who you are. But you just don't need that. Your confidence comes from self-understanding, so you're free from that exhausting, constant need to perform. You get to just exist. And that whole idea that your validation comes from within, well, that leads us perfectly into the second sign. You have a massive respect for your own psychological safety. I mean, think about it. While everyone else is broadcasting every little detail of their lives, you treat your own thoughts, your emotions, your identity like they're precious. You get that your inner world is valuable, and it's something worth protecting from the nonstop judgment of the internet. So your desire for privacy, it's not you being antisocial, not at all. It's more like a filter. You're not chasing exposure or a huge follower count. What you really want is deep, real connection. And you just know, almost intuitively, that real connection almost never requires an audience. Okay, so this drive to protect your inner world means you're also super aware of our third sign. You actively push back against something called the audience effect. And this is a really powerful psychological thing. The second we feel like we're being watched, our behavior just changes drastically. We start to pose a little, we filter our words, we tweak our personality to be more likable. It's this constant and honestly exhausting performance. But you just refuse to play that game. You're not turning your life into a performance for a bunch of invisible internet judges. Your online silence is basically a psychological rebellion. It's you saying no to that constant draining pressure to be on all the time because you value your authentic self way too much. And this rebellion, this refusal to perform, it naturally casts you in a completely different role, which brings us right to sign number 4. So in social psychology, you can kind of put people into 2 buckets, the performers and the observers. And if you're not posting, chances are you are a natural-born observer. You're not just absent, you're actually watching things on a whole different level. You see the patterns that everyone else is too busy performing to notice. You see who's posting for validation, who's just trying to cope with something, who's hiding behind a fake persona. It's not a lack of interest, it's a very, very selective interest. And that brings us to our 5th and final sign. And this one is pretty much a masterclass in emotional control. You've mastered what's called stimulus control. Now think about what social media really is. Every single notification, every like, every comment, it's a stimulus. It's specifically designed to get a reaction out of your brain. It's basically a dopamine loop designed to be addictive. You post something, you get a notification, you get that little hit of dopamine, and then you start craving more. It feels good for a second, but it's training your brain to need other people to feel good about yourself. But you, because you have that intrinsic self-worth we talked about in sign number 1, you just step out of that loop entirely. You're choosing long-term peace of mind over a cheap, temporary chemical fix. You're emotionally independent. So what does this all mean? What's the big picture here? Well, in a world that is completely obsessed with being seen, your choice to be unseen, that's a really powerful statement. I love this idea that your mystery isn't confusion, it is absolute control. See, people might not get why you're so quiet, but it's not because you're confused or lost. Far from it. It's because you are in the driver's seat. You have complete control over who gets your time and your energy. At the end of the day, it comes down to this. You aren't afraid of being forgotten. What you're really afraid of is becoming fake. Your silence is a courageous choice to protect what's real and authentic in a world that's constantly begging you to put on a show. So I want to leave you with this question to chew on. Out of these 5 signs we just talked about, which one really explains your digital silence? Is it that intrinsic self-worth, the need for psychological safety, the rebellion against the audience effect? Whichever one it is, your answer really points to the true source of your quiet power.